I believe life is about being on a wellness adventure, and since 2017, I've been on a quest of redefining how to create an unmistakably high quality life. It's involved relearning my primal instincts, reclaiming the power of unshakable belief in myself, revamping what is in my kitchen from food to water, and rediscovering the practical wisdom in regular everyday moments. I'm hungry to expose how easy it is to live a vibrant and fulfilling life that is equally good for us and the planet. Here on the Isabelle Wellman Show, we weave the practical and the mystical to evolve into the highest quality versions of ourselves in order to lead a long lasting ripple effect. Together, let's lay it all out on this wellness adventure. Welcome back to the Isabelle Wellman Show, where we are on a wellness adventure. Today's adventure is going to be leading us into the exploration of how to hold yourself in Tantric practice, or the exploration of Tantric practice. What is a Tantric practice, and how can it help us, first of all, become more self-empowered? Second of all, realize that we are here as a generation to transform how we have been operating as a society, as humans on an individual level, which then expands to a societal level, and that it really does begin with us understanding and understanding what that means and what that will require or what is asked of us to make that needle move forward. I'm also going to be interlacing this conversation of sex with what it means to hold yourself as a warrior. Excuse me. In this book I've been reading and just finished, The Journey to Ixalan, which I've mentioned in previous podcasts by Carlos Casandina, it talks a lot about what it means to be on the path of a warrior. And like I've mentioned before in the last few episodes, with this Tai Chi practice that I am engulfed in, I am finding that my various skills in different practices, such as yoga, training, my spiritual endeavors, Buddhism, all of these aspects are coming together to form a really beautiful puzzle that I'm finally getting to fit. And it's as if I've wound them all together in a beautiful little ribbon and they make sense. I have never felt more powerful in my own self-actualization. I've never felt more at ease, and I've never felt more trusting. I feel very vital and very vibrant, and it's been a game changer. A giant, giant game changer. In 2020, 2021, things were great, and it was like that first aha. And then the move to Alaska allowed me to be with myself alone for the first time in my whole life. And it allowed me to be with a partner in a healthy dynamic that wasn't reactive, that was pure honesty, that had values guiding the ship. And it only led me further into self-discovery, and then abandoning and coming back, and abandoning and coming back. And then I had a health hiccup in 2002 when all of those puppies came our way, the Thanksgiving of 21, and then going into 2022, I was a wreck. My hair's falling out. I felt incredibly weak. I was following a very vegetarian, vegan-esque diet slash camper diet that wasn't very well planned, and we were doing our best. I had a completely burnt out nervous system, and I felt like a fraud or a failure because I was really desiring to be a model of health, and I wasn't that. And it really made me feel like had to fall back and give myself time and space to heal and to understand what was going on with my life, where I was out of balance, where I was overworking myself, where I did not feel safe, and what that meant, and trusting that I needed to be in person and go out into the world. So everything has gotten better since that point, since moving into a place, and we've actually lived somewhere in the same spot for more than 2 years, which is actually fantastic. I love traveling. I'm addicted to traveling, yet I really have needed this home space. And Reno has become a really just magical place that was very unexpected. Don't move here. It's too great. We don't need any more people. Just kidding. But I highly recommend checking it out. It has been a wondrous spot to be. I'm meant to live in a valley between mountains. It is so wonderful for energy to flow through, and you feel just the power of the clouds rolling over and then down into the valley. It's really, really powerful. But moving on with my point, this personal power comes when we address what is going on in our own lives. And I believe from so many women and friends and sisters that I speak with about these personable experiences on when we do not feel strong in our voice. And our voice is directly tied to the yoni or to the vagina, to the pussy, and not feeling weird or oh my god and putzing around this piece of the body, this part of the body, this birthing canal, this center of life force, of life creating magic. It's astounding. And for the past few years, I've been doing numerous podcasts, solo pods, and interviews with sisters, friends, and myself about reclaiming your pride and your love for your menstrual cycle. It is crucial. That is one of the first steps that we must take. Because when we can love our bodies and what goes on once a month to allow this birthing process to be prevalent, to initiate us into womanhood, it is the most incredible bodily function that we have. Hormonally, it tells us how healthy we are, emotionally, and it shows us where we might be slipping nutritionally. It is a giant vital sign that gets to be a compass for how we move in this world. And men have a 24-hour vital sign. It's the circadian rhythm. That's really how they are moving. And I'm gonna end that little skirt there, but coming back to the fact of in order to have this power of our voice going down to our vaginas, we have to be able to speak up for ourselves and claim ourselves, which is what I want to read about from this book, Journey to Ixalan, and then this little introduction to the Tantra and the power of the warrior. So I'm going to start with the Tantra piece. I was inspired about this conversation from a podcast with Aubrey Marcus and Mama Gina. If you don't know Mama Gina, look her up. Fabulous, fabulous woman. Has been teaching about sex for decades. So, this is not her book, but I ordered her book, Pussy, A Reclamation. But I found this at the store, jumped out at me, and it's called Tantric Orgasm for Women by Diana Richardson. And I just want to read the intro because just the intro itself is really powerful and is going to lead us into what I want to talk about. So, in Sanskrit, the ancient religious and classical literary language of India, the word Tantra can be likened to such concepts as capacity for expansion and that which goes on expanding. The words continuum, web, context, and transformation. Tantra teaches an acceptance of who we are as a whole, from the solid destiny of our physical body to the refined layers of our spirit. It is concerned with the transmutation of energy, liberation of mind, attainment of one's full potential. The balanced union of opposites is considered the way of achieving liberation of body and mind, a liberation from the supposedly endless cycle of unconscious rebirth. Tantra, understood over 5,000 years ago, what modern science has since proven to be true through chromosome study, that woman is half man and man is half woman. The balancing of inner opposites is the way to achieve full potential. Falling fully into feminine mode in sexual union transforms women through an inner alchemical process. This, my second book on Tantra, essentially explores Tantra from the female perspective. In the pages ahead, I endeavor to convey the significant role of the receptive feminine energy plays in the male-female sexual exchange. It wouldn't be realistic to draw a distinct line between woman and man when talking about sex, because sex is the most intimate meeting of male and female elements. However, there are aspects of sexuality that apply exclusively to women, and these can be used to distinct advantage in influencing and strengthening the sexual experience for both women and men. A woman who is without a partner can still benefit from the knowledge. It can give her a new feeling about herself and her body, and often through this new awareness, she will draw the right partner to herself. As a researcher, teacher, and writer on sex, I've been encouraged by both women and men to address sexuality from the female point of view. Women have suggested this directly, and though no man has exactly verbalized it, I have been encouraged indirectly by men's actions and what they have demonstrated unknowingly to me in the last 20 years. And then she goes on talking about how they lead these workshops called Making Love. And during these workshops, truly touching miracles take place every day. Many of the couples re-experience the dynamic love that brought them together in the first place and have been able to continue into the future in loving harmony. However, not all partnerships are equally successful, and sometimes couples have separated. In time, naturally, those who have separated have formed new relationships. As these new relationships begin to take hold, I've noticed something quite phenomenal and unexpected happening in the groups. The men who have attended my workshops before are returning to the workshops. It is the men who've been coming back to share the alternative approach to sexuality with their new female partners because they have experienced how the tantric approach can enhance love. To my greatest surprise, women, though they found the workshops as uplifting as the partners did, have been much slower on the rebound. Only in the very recent past have women participants come back to repeat the workshop with new loved ones. The fact that many men, but few women, return to the workshops with their new lovers offers two important insights. The first is that we women are afraid to talk to men about sex and are reluctant to share with men what pleases our bodies most. We hesitate to introduce our marital partners to any alternative sex approaches. The main fear for a woman is that a losing her man, of ceasing to be sexually attractive to him if she changes. Sadly, women choose to stay with conventional sex, which is the distorted form of male sexuality. We give away our unique feminine magic and power. The second insight is much more encouraging, and I hope it will give women the confidence to be more authoritative in the sexual sphere. The fact that men are bringing women back to the workshops clearly demonstrates that men develop a liking for another form of sexual expression once they have tasted it. How can a man have a taste for something he has never experienced? Often, tantric sexuality has to be experienced before the longing for it can arise. And then just a little bit more of this. From both men and women who have no personal experience with Tantra, I repeatedly hear the comment, Tantra seems to be for women, not for men. Based on my own exploration and on the encouraging response of the men who attend my workshops, I can say with all certainty, no, Tantra is not only for women, it is definitely for men too. Tantra is not simply something designed to make women happy and men not so happy, a way of giving women the reins for a while. When a man has had one taste of the delicious depths and heights of expanded sexual energy, invariably he wants it again. But unless women make available their true femininity to men, How and where and when can men develop a taste for it? Here and there, you might find a woman who naturally has the knack of receiving and channeling masculine energy upward during intercourse and can lift sex to another dimension for herself and her man. The truth is that a woman can consciously develop this art and guide her man into an expanded sexual sphere, and thereby create for herself more satisfying sexual experiences. A woman has the natural capacity to enter this realm simply by virtue of being a woman. She who is the receptive aspect in the male female dynamic can move inward and draw or pull man along with her. This is her intrinsic power. Through receptivity, through giving away and yielding, inherent movement is possible. The opposite does not hold quite so true. Generally speaking, man cannot easily initiate the experience of opening a doorway and absorbing woman into him. To do so requires great stillness and the clarity of true male authority. When the receptive, feminine aspect gives way, actually receiving what is coming to it, its very receptivity enables the dynamic, masculine, energy to move and flow. In this way, man easily and naturally follows woman. He can even wordlessly flow into exalted realms with woman if he is fortunate enough to encounter receptive feminine energy. And so, needless to say, she continues with women is the real starting point for the necessary re education in sex. This movement has to take root in women and spread from them out into society through lovers, friends, one night stands, through mothers teaching daughters and fathers teaching sons. It requires that women begin to speak up for themselves, expressing their needs and sensitivities, and that men take urgent heed of these messages. The greatest potential for true sexual fulfillment and love lies in a woman and a man joined together on a mutual journey of sexual self discovery. Nevertheless, a woman can do much without the conscious cooperation of a man. Sex is about as close to ourselves as we can get. It reaches, touches, and changes every cell of our bodies. Through exploring sex, we will discover who we really are beneath all the social pretensions and conventions that we inhibitly use to cover up our deeper sexual selves. So that is Tantra orgasm for women, or a tantric approach to sex. And in this first chapter that I read, it's all about witnessing your energy on a realistic level and believing in that energy. It is calling it up. It is having a practice that allows you to feel it rising in yourself outside of the sexual experience and then to feel it in it. So oftentimes we are shown on movies and media what sex is, quotation marks there, and how it is all about being hot and heavy in one moment, and then you see the scene change and they're jumping on each other and they're ripping clothes off, and it's a hard makeout session, and then it's just ba 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 ba. Super intense and aggressive sex, which has a time and place, but not every time and not every place. How many times have you longed as a woman or a man for soft, slow sex, for sex that was very intentional, that was very gentle, that was perhaps adorning, or it was at a pace that felt mutually aligned for the both of you, or you were able to proclaim your power, or to really let go of all of the thoughts, to let go of everything holding you back in your mind, to let go of the reins and the walls, to walk out of your fortress and simply be there as a strong woman, ready to receive, ready to give in because you felt safe. Yeah, when's the last time you felt safe, truly safe with your partner, where you could melt and you felt held and you could really lose yourself and you got caught up in the texture of their lips or how soft the skin was or the excitement you felt rolling up through your body from the sex center or the pelvis. When is the last time that you felt like you could speak during sex in a safe way that was not along the lines of pornography talk? And when was the last time you felt like the man you're with or woman you're with has that equal authority of I am here to hold you safely in this container, in this space. Nothing will harm you. I am that foundation. I am that mountain. And you are allowed to be the river that flows down my mountainside. That is the dichotomy of female or feminine and masculine energetics. It's yin and yang. It's fight and flight and rest and digest. It is action. It is nurture. It is the balance that we seek. And without balance, we limit ourselves in every area of life, whether that be our physical bodies. If you are constantly working out and then going for work and rushing around to get the kids everywhere, and you are not giving yourself time to be with yourself, to tap in intrinsically, internally with your world, you are limiting your potential. You cannot even phantom the energy that would come because there's no quote unquote no time for you to do these things. It's about making time, cutting out what is not worthy of your time. You have to make the decision, sever the head of whatever is not going to serve you best or help you feel energized, and really finding out your values. What value is driving you to watch TV for 3 hours at night or be on your phone at work between people showing up? What is keeping you away from living life fully? What is disconnecting you in your day? To continue on with this point, we are the transformational generation, like I said, and a quote, a quote that Mama Gina said in this podcast that I put together from two different sentences, she said, because she had stopped it and then continued it later, was until a woman can come to the sense of her own aliveness, her own beauty, she cannot see a king. And so often we're violated, so often we're shamed, so often we're body unaware, so often we're unaware of our turn on and what turns us on and how often we're allowed to quote unquote we're allowed to be turned on, as if it's only between the hours of 8 and 10 p.m. when we get home and we're in bed with our lover. No, we get to be turned on all the time. We get to be turned on by life. We get to be turned on by the wind in the air. We get to be turned on by a portrait, by a random person we see on the street. We get to be turned on for how we feel in our lives, how we're moving, how we're dressing, how we are approaching each moment with a considerable amount of expansive energy because we're turned on. Think about this on the most basic level. When we are turned off, so to say, you think about a light switch. You turn it off. The energy stops. There's no energy going to the lights in your house. There's no energy going to the oven when you unplug it, when you turn it off. There's no heat. There's no sensation. There's no bright. There's no surge of energy. That is our bodies. Our energy never stops. So we're not exactly being turned on and off like a light switch. But in our modern day and age, that's exactly what's going on. We are so unaware and unconscious of our energy that we are fucking turned off. That we're so turned off that we walk through life bland and sad and upset and so wound up in situations and events that are actually so meaningless. And if you just took your focus off of it and saw it with a new light, you turned yourself on, you saw with a new perception, you saw with more compassion, you saw with love, you saw with attraction, you saw with, what can I take out of this? What is the gain in this moment? How can I witness what I'm learning, what I'm experiencing, what is aiding me in my life from this shitty situation? How we can live life from a aroused, sexual, expanded, transformative place is the key. And especially for women, when we have been violated, when our bodies have been taken over by a cruel, boyish man, a boy who has been disguised as a man. And in today's society, I believe that we are seeing less strong, authoritative men who are honest, who are genuine, who are loving, and have that sense of gentle masculinity. Not in the sense that they are not taking ownership or responsibility, or denying themselves pleasure, or denying themselves their dreams. But men who are taking the initiative to hone their own energy, to hone their own sexual desire, whatever way that looks like for them, and to lead. Women and men are on an individual journey, and we do have to each be equally responsible and taking action in our own ways. Yet, when it comes to that intercourse and that interaction and having that equal relationship between man and woman, there comes a necessary balancing of polarities. And this can waver back and forth. Men aren't just masculine and females are not just feminine. That's not how it works. There's toxic masculinity and toxic femininity, and then there's not enough of each. So, where are we lying? Where can you find yourself? Toxic femininity can be way too much of this, how will I say it? Like, fuck men, they suck, go women. This very hard and rigid and edgy, I have to prove to you, I have to hustle, I have to deny everything about myself. That's toxic because you're just being a man. Like, you're just operating as the men you are cursing against. How does that make any sense? And then men who are toxic masculine deny themselves emotion, deny genuine connection, deny trusting women, deny compassion of the heart, and softening in order to allow a woman to feel safe, yet while staying strong in their conviction. They deny women. They become so small in their ego, they have to put barriers up for their woman when their woman is on a path of feeling better and regaining power in themselves. So there's a bunch of different ways this can be played out, but it first starts with us because we attract exactly what we are operating by and with. So if we are operating in a way that is contradicting to what we actually seek and desire, we're not going to attract what we desire. We're going to attract what we're practicing, what we're portraying, how we're operating, how we're treating ourselves. And that's a matter of a fact thing. Firsthand experience. There's no other way this works. When I was, let's see, I was 19 and I was single for the first time in a while in Colorado. And I was like, all right, this is what I want. And I described exactly what I was looking for. And I felt in my power then. But I fell back once I met this new partner. I fell back into codependent relationship because that's all I'd ever known. And so inevitably, I had not integrated the true practice of independence, of ownership, of self-actualization, which is okay. And we learn and we only know what we know. And it's not until we have hard experiences that we can learn and then look back and go, ah, that's what was missing. That's where I made that's why that all happened. They're not mistakes and they're not failures. It's just how life unraveled for you because you only had what you had to be equipped with. And so it wasn't until after that relationship I could review and then see the cycle I was repeating and going, ah, wow, hit myself upside the head with a brick because it took me so long to realize it. But then I figured it out and I devoted myself to change of my behavior, change in how people saw me, change in how I talked and addressed to people, change with my family. I didn't give a shit about how they saw me anymore because that did not overpower my desire to find myself as a responsible human being. And that still took a hot minute to integrate. This is not going to take a month. This is a lifelong practice. This has been a story of 4+ years now, 5 years. And it's been remarkable. And there's highs and there's lows. But it's coming into that balance with ourselves and having the grit to speak. A big component in me having the ability to speak has been having a sex, love, and relationship coach. Thank you, my dear friend Aaliyah, Pleasure Pollinator, who coached me over what I think was 6 months and changed my life after my first sisters gathering in Greece with women I see as my equal, my sisters who have learned so much through where I first experienced that masculine, feminine, energetic wave of equilibrium as we all shifted with moods and our learning, our revelations, and what we were feeling in those moments, what we were bearing witness to, what we were showing our true hearts without a cage around them. And it was wild. It was wild. And then it's addicting once you get a taste. It's so like this book is Tantric Orgasm for Women, but like my first experiences weren't with that. It was a very gentle, meditative approach, and it focused on my practice with myself and exploring my body and exploring my feelings. And with another woman, I was able to explore why I felt so choked up, not being able to speak my needs and desires. What were those barriers? Where's that point of the edge where I physically could not go any further because I felt so crumbling? That's the point you stop and you nourish and you say, all right, that's where we're at. And you slowly take steps towards expressing, like, hey, with my partner, I was able to express this is where I find myself falling into these very fearful behaviors. And I want you to know so that we can work on this together so that I'm going to do my thing. But when we're together and we come into intimacy, we can help one another. You can help me in this. And that strengthens a relationship that is meant to be. A man or a woman who is not receptive to that is going to fall away or like meet you with aggression or, oh, I'm not good enough or you don't trust me or I'm scary. And well, that does not help the situation. And that's not true because that's taking it personally. And when you take anything personally, you're setting yourself up for failure and you have a lot to learn. You have a lot to go into yourself and learn about because it's not about being the victim. And that's what taking things personally is. You're victimizing the external experience and you're making it a personal experience when that's not true. I remember how I did this in friendship. I had gone back to my hometown and I was excited to see people that I grew up with that I felt safe connecting with. And I remember one of my great friends from high school went to some baby shower and started talking smack to everybody about me. But another friend told me about it. She's like, I don't want to cause drama, but I want you to know about this. And I addressed it there, but seeing that y'all are great friends, like, here you go. And in the past, I don't know what I would have done. I would have let it go. I would have ignored it. I would have not seen myself as worthy to speak up about it. I was a very fearful child, young adult in high school and middle school. I wanted people to like me and accept me, and I would just let them do anything, say anything about me because I was too afraid to speak up for myself. I just wanted to be liked and accepted and loved, like the biggest melodrama of my teenage years. But that situation did not align with me, and I wasn't afraid to lose somebody because it did not align with my values. And that was a giant turning point because I addressed it with love. And I said something along the lines of, hey, I really love you. Yet this situation happened when you were around these people. And, I'm not accepting this anymore. So if you want to be friends, if you want to keep this going, I would love to. And I respect the shit out of you. And I would be really sad to lose this, but I can lose it because I'm moving this way. And guess what that outcome was? I was met with equal respect, an apology, and a thriving friendship. We are still friends to this day. We talk on the phone all the time. Whenever I go to Michigan, we visit and we talk and we chat and we catch up. And there's a true, genuine love because I was able to show her that I wasn't just a push around, please everyone kind of girl anymore, who I always was in high school. And I had done my equal wrongdoing to her in the past of not valuing her friendship and not meeting her where she was and expected me to meet her because I was that please it all kind of gal. And ultimately, as crunchy and hard and it is to go through those types of conversations, they're so important. And when we can come at it with love, what I mean when I say that is we're not bashing them. We are not trying to one up them. We are not trying to dismember them. We are not trying to throw shade on them. We're not trying to one up them in any way or compare a situation to that situation. We are simply addressing it for what it is in that moment and how it makes us feel and why we are moving in a different direction personally. And not over explaining yourself, but saying, hey, this is what I'm doing these days. I really respect you. This is what I expect from a friendship. If this is not attainable for you, I understand. And I hope you understand that I have to move on from this friendship. That is as loving as you can make it. Of course, you don't know how they're going to respond, and that's okay because you showed up as your best self and your most aligned, current, valued proposition, and you spoke from your heart. Not worrying about the outcome is the key. That is the key. And so you address things with your power. And having power of your life is claiming your energy, claiming what you are allowing. And even when it comes to family, when it's a big bustling family event and these people operate in this way that they've always operated, you can be a catalyst of change by putting your foot in the middle of the Congo line and tripping someone, and they all kind of fall over. And it's just to shake them out of everything they've known. And it's not to change them, but it's to say, no, I don't want to be a part of the Congo line. I want to sit, I want to rest, I want to watch, I want to have very gentle conversation. This is my barrier. And it's doing it in whatever way you feel safe, but you have to start doing it with yourself. And if you're not doing it with yourself, you're never going to, I shouldn't say never, it's going to be extremely difficult and challenging for you to do it with those outside of you. That which is external is much harder to approach than internal. Yet we miss the internal part because our psychology is like, oh, I can just say these things to those people and I can ignore it in myself. That's the worst modeling approach ever. If you want to be any kind of teacher or coach or parent, you have to model what you're preaching. You have to model what you're sharing. And if you're not, there's a problem there and people see it. And then that's your reputation of so and so being a fraud. I'm really getting deep into this tangent, but it all circles back to personal power and claiming ourselves and our desires, and that we are here as women to elevate. We elevate every single situation. We elevate our encounters with people. We elevate the feeling of people. We elevate when we are turned on and we are feeling full of life. And it's a choice to stop comparing and stop seeing the lack of, but to move forward and see the gains and to see the appreciation, to see what you have learned and what you've mastered and where you're going and how everything has brought you to this point and being grateful for it. And like, wow, I'm so turned on for XYZ. Maybe you want to pick up some books that help you get turned on in a new way or to teach you, because we cannot know if we do not know. We have to be exposed. One other quote from Mama Gina I want to say is, our responsibility as women to transmute our ancestors' tears into a grieved prayer and integrated acclamation of personal sexual power. She said that, and that hit, because our mothers and their mothers and their mothers' mothers and mothers' mothers' mothers, going back probably at least 8, 10, 12 generations, may or may not have known about this. And maybe it's as little as 5 generations or 6, but we have lost these practices. We have lost crucial practice and behavior and expansion of what it means to be a woman, to be a man, to be in our energies, to feel sexual desire, to feel like we can call upon it whenever we wish to have that personal power. And it's time that we do this for all of them who did not have the chance, who did not have the choice to, because it wasn't allowed. And there were much worse repercussions to them speaking up and out. It is up to us to show up in this way of the warrior. And I want to bring this all together, finish this podcast with reading 2 pages of this book, Journey to Ixalan. And first, I'm just going to take a drink. And this is a chapter called The Mood of the Warrior. So this is a book that is, to give you a preface, the journey of a young man, I believe a PhD student from UCLA, who found this Native American in Arizona, I believe, and is searching to learn more about peyote and how the plant changes perception or how it can benefit or what it does to you. And he first comes to this Native American asking about it straight out the gate. And he says, you have to talk to plants. And this guy feels so stupid talking to plants. He's like, why am I talking to this plant? And he couldn't do it. And so throughout this book, it's 10 years. There's I think about 6 of these books or 8, but in the first 2 books, he talks about it from more of an intellectual point of view. The third book, the one I started with, a recommendation from my Tai Chi teacher, starts more of the spiritual recognition of, wow, now I understand. And this is the journey of 10 years of this student seeing this Native American to learn this wisdom. And so in this chapter, It is the mood of a warrior, and he's teaching him the life of a warrior. And just to catch you up with where this is going, 'cause I'm going to start after this piece, but they go into the forest and they set up a cage to catch a lion. And they're not trying to actually hurt or hunt this lion, but it's a moment of teaching power to this young man from this sorcerer or master, as they say in the book, of what power is. So, this is how it starts. Don Juan listened patiently while I went over the entire experience. Why the awe for the big cat? He asked with an inquisitive expression. You've been close to most of the animals that live around here, and you've never been so awed by them. Do you like cats? No, I don't. Well, forget about it then. The lesson was not on how to hunt lions, anyways. What was it about? The little crow pointed out this specific spot to me, and at that spot I saw the opportunity of making you understand how one acts, which while one is in the mood of a warrior. Everything you did last night was done within a proper mood. You were controlled and at the same time abandoned when you jumped down from the tree to pick up the cage and run up to me. You were not paralyzed with fear. And then, near the top of the bluff, when the lion let out a scream, you moved very well. I'm sure you wouldn't believe what you did if you looked at the bluff during the daytime. You had a degree of abandon, and at the same time, you had a degree of control over yourself. You did not let go and wet your pants, and yet you let go and climbed that wall in complete darkness. You could have missed the trail and killed yourself. To climb that wall in darkness required that you had to hold on to yourself and let go of yourself at the same time. That's what I call the mood of a warrior. I said that whatever I had done that night was the product of my fear and not the result of any mood of control and abandon. I know that, he said, smiling. I wanted to show you that you can spur yourself beyond your limits if you are in the proper mood. A warrior makes his own mood. You didn't know that. Fear got you into the mood of a warrior, but now that you know about it, anything can serve to get you into it. I wanted to argue with him, but my reasons were not clear. I felt an inexplicable sense of annoyance. It's convenient to always act in such a mood, he continued. It cuts through the crap and leaves one purified. It was a great feeling when you reached to the top of the bluff, wasn't it? I told him that I understood what he meant, yet I felt it would be idiotic to try to apply what he was teaching me to everyday life. One needs the mood of a warrior for every single act, he said. Otherwise, one becomes distorted and ugly. There's no power in a life that lacks this mood. Look at yourself. Everything offends and upsets you. You whine and complain and feel that everyone is making you dance to their tune. You are a leaf at the mercy of the wind. There's no power in your life. What an ugly feeling that must be. A warrior, on the other hand, is a hunter. He calculates everything. That's control. But once his calculations are over, he acts. He lets go. That's abandon. A warrior is not a leaf at the mercy of the wind. No one can push him. No one can make him do things against himself or against his better judgment. A warrior is tuned to survive, and he survives in the best of all possible fashions. I liked his stance, although I thought it was unrealistic. It seemed too simplistic for the complex world in which I lived. He laughed at my arguments, and I insisted that the mood of a warrior could not possibly help me overcome the feeling of being offended or actually being injured by the actions of my fellow men, as in the hypothetical case of being physically harassed by a cruel and malice person placed in a position of authority. He roared with laughter and admitted the example was appropriate. A warrior could be injured but not offended, he said. For a warrior, there is nothing offensive about the acts of his fellow men as long as he himself is acting within the proper mood. The other night you were not offended by the lion. The fact that it chased us did not anger you. I did not hear you cursing it, nor did I hear you say that he had no right to follow us. It could have been a cruel and malicious lion, for all you know, but that was not a consideration while you struggled to avoid it. The only thing that was pertinent was to survive, and that you did very well. If you would have been alone and the lion had caught up with you and mauled you to death, you would have never even considered complaining or feeling offended by its acts. The mood of a warrior is not so far-fetched for yours or anybody's world. You need it in order to cut through all the gruff. I explained my way of reasoning. The lion and my fellow men were not on par because I knew the intimate quirks of men, while I knew nothing about the lion. What offended me about my fellow men was that they acted maliciously and unknowingly. I know, Don Juan said patiently. To achieve the mood of a warrior is not a simple matter. It is a revolution. To regard the lion and the water rats and our fellow men as equals is a magnificent act of the warrior's spirit. It takes power to do that. And that is the mood of a warrior. And that was a very profound couple pages for me to read when I read it. And I hope that it helps you bring an emphasis to what you have personally taken in this podcast. These are all things that are very alive and well for me, the things that I talk about in this season of the podcast, this era of its existence. And it means a lot to just be honest with my own process and where I'm at, and hopefully it relating to those who are listening and who need it. And I pray that this podcast continues to grow naturally. I really don't promote it that much. I hope that word of mouth helps it spread. I talk about it when people ask, and that's about all I got. So if you felt like this could help someone in your life, please share it with them. And if it was beneficial for you, I'd love to hear about it. Please email me, isabelle@isabellewellman.com or isabellewellman.com. And I have a place that you can contact me about the podcast. I'm very honored and happy to speak all of this. It's felt very good to speak on all of this. And I'm excited to continue to explore this tantric way of sexual expansion. So I hope that if you have any curiosity, you follow it, and you have a great rest of your wellness adventure today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Please consider leaving a 5-star review, following along on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out the video version on YouTube, and come hang out with me on Threads. We are making an impact together every single day that we stand up and we share, we learn, and we thrive. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Please consider leaving a 5-star review, following along on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out the video version on YouTube, and come hang out with me on Threads. We are making an impact together every single day that we stand up and we share, we learn, and we thrive.